Today we are going to read two sections from Other People's Money and How the Bankers Use It by Louis D. Brandeis. And I'm going to assure again that there is no interference in the conveyance or the presentation of this information. It starts on page 119, going down, starting on the 6th line with the header, and then the 8th line with the information. Cities that helped themselves. In the present year, some cities have been led by necessity to help themselves. The bond market was poor. Business was uncertain, money tight, and the ordinary investor reluctant. Bankers were loath to take new bond issues. Municipalities were unwilling to pay the high rates demanded of them, and many cities were prohibited by law or ordinance from paying more than 4% interest, while good municipal bonds were then selling on a 4.5% to 5% basis. But money had to be raised, and the attempt was made to borrow it direct from the lenders instead of from the banker middlemen. Among the cities which raised money in this way were Philadelphia, Baltimore, St. Paul, and Utica, New York. Philadelphia, under Mayor Blankenberg's inspiration, sold nearly $4,175,000 in about 2 days on a 4% basis, and another over-the-counter sale that has been made since. In Baltimore, with the assistance of the Sun, $4,766,000 were sold over the counter on a 4.5% basis. Utica's two popular sales of 4.5% bonds were largely oversubscribed, and since then other cities, large and small, have had their over-the-counter bond sales. The experience of Utica, as stated by its controller, Fred G. Reiswig, must prove of general interest. Quote, in June of the present year, I advertised for sale two issues, one on $100,000 and the other of $19,000, bearing interest at 4.5%. The latter issue was purchased at par by a local bidder, and of the former we purchased $10,000 for our sinking funds. That left $90,000 unsold, for which there were no bidders, which was the first time that I had been unable to sell our bonds. About this time, the popular sales of Baltimore and Philadelphia attracted my attention. The laws in effect in those cities did not restrict the officials as does our law, and I could not copy their methods. I realized that there was plenty of money in this immediate vicinity, and if I could devise a plan conforming with our laws under which I could make all the sale attractive to small investors, it would undoubtedly prove successful. I had found in previous efforts to interest people of small means that they did not understand the meaning of premium and would rather not buy than bid above par. They also objected to making a deposit with their bids. In arranging for the popular sales, I announced in the papers that while I must award to the highest bidder, it was my opinion that a par bid would be the highest bid. I also announced that we would issue bonds in denominations as low as $100, and that we would not require a deposit except where the bid was $5,000 or over. Then I succeeded in getting the local papers to print editorials and local notices upon the subject of municipal bonds, with particular reference to those of Utica and the forthcoming sale. All the prospective purchaser had to do was to fill in the amount desired, sign his name, seal the bid, and await the day for the award. I did not have many bidders for very small amounts. There was only one for $100 at the first sale and one for $100 at the second sale, and not more than 10 who wanted less than $500. Most of the bidders were looking for from $1,000 to $5,000, but nearly all were people of comparatively small means, and with some, the investment represented all their savings. In awarding the bonds, I gave preference to residents of Utica, and I had no difficulty in apportioning the various maturities in a satisfactory way. Continuing the quote. I believe that there are a large number of persons in every city who would buy their own bonds if the way were made easier by law. Syracuse and the neighboring village of Ilion, both of which have been unable to sell in the usual way, came to me for a program of procedure, and both have since had successful sales along similar lines. We've been able, by this means, to keep the interest rate on our bonds at 4.5%, while cities which have followed the old plan of relying upon bond houses have had to increase the rate to 5%. I am in favor of amending the law in such a manner that the Common Council, approved by the Board of Estimates and Apportionment, may fix the prices at which bonds shall be sold instead of calling for competitive bids. Then place the bonds on sale at the Comptroller's office to anyone who will pay the price. The prices upon each issue should be graded according to the different values of different maturities. Under the present law, as we have it, conditions are too complicated to make a sale practicable, except upon a basis of par bids. End quote. Finishes 5 lines up from the bottom of page 122. I will end this and then we'll go on to the next section.